Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I am doing a series review of the Modern Love series by Alicia Rye. This is a series of companion novels where in each book we follow a friend from a particular friend group and their significant other. If you haven't read the series yet but are considering it, the way that this review is going to be structured is that I'll talk about non-spoilery thoughts and then spoiler thoughts for each book in order. And I'm doing it that way because, like I said, they are interconnected, so chances of me mentioning something spoilery for a previous book is pretty likely. But the three books in this series are The Right Swipe, Girl Gone Viral, and First Comes Like. My favorite of the three is the first one, The Right Swipe. That is also the book with my favorite female main character, and then my favorite male main character is in book 2. Overall, I would recommend the series if you are a fan of contemporary romances and if you like companion novels like I do. Starting off with book 1, The Right Swipe, I rated it 4.5 stars, and one thing that I do like about this series also is that there is a lot of representation, which I like. So in this first book, we're following Rhiannon, who is Black, and Samson, who is Samoan. I'd recommend this if you like sort of like a second chance romance, but also some enemies to lovers vibes. And then as far as content to be aware of, there is death of a family member, workplace harassment, and sexual harassment. But in this one, we are following Rhiannon. She owns this company that is, I guess, similar to Tinder, but better. Although anything is better than Tinder. But anyway, she owns this dating company and she wants to acquire another one. So while she starts working with the owner of that company, she runs into Samson, who she already knows and dislikes because they met through her app, had a one-night stand, were planning to meet again, and he disappeared. So she's pissed because he ghosted her. The two of them do end up having to work together though, because he's working for that company that she wants to acquire, so it is a little bit of workplace romance as well. If you like that, then definitely recommend. That's really all that I can say without spoilers. So if you have not yet read The Right Swipe but would like to, this is your official spoiler warning. Alright, so as per usual, I'm going to start off with the characters like I always do, then I'll talk about some plot points, and then my dislikes and my likes. Starting off with the characters, first we have Rhiannon. I really like her. However, the one thing that I dislike about her is that she has this mentality of she's been hurt before, therefore she can never trust anybody ever again. Like, I get it, I understand being guarded, however, it's really annoying because then she sort of ends up self-sabotaging a little bit when something is actually going well, and I hate that. For some reason, I didn't have Samson in my notes. However, I did like him. I didn't dislike him. I think I was a little just indifferent towards him, honestly. But he has a good male main character. A lot of people will probably like him. He's a former football player, I think, and I believe many people in his family were football players. So he and a few of his football buddies do work to make sure that former athletes have necessary help that they need regarding their mental and physical health after retiring from the game. Then we have Lakshmi, who is Rhiannon's assistant. I love her. I think she's great. She's very bold and outgoing and speaks her mind, calls people on their shit. She's also a really great friend to Rhiannon. Then we have Katrina, who is Rhiannon's best friend and roommate. She is also the main character in book 2. Dean is Samson's best friend, so I really like him in this one. He's also a little bit in book 2, but he's a good background character. The only character that I really didn't like in this story is Peter, and that is Rhiannon's old boss. So as I mentioned, the tension between Rhiannon and Samson comes from the fact that he ghosted her. However, what she doesn't know is that he actually had a very good reason for it. He ended up having a family emergency, and because of the nature of the app, because they had initially decided to link up for a one-night stand, they had no way to contact each other. But naturally, she was hurt by that, and then when she is forced to see him again, those feelings of resentment sort of come back to the surface, and he has to work really hard to gain her trust. As far as my dislikes, like I said, Rhiannon's I can't trust anybody because it'll just hurt me thing was really annoying. Eventually, she does sort of get over it. One of my biggest pet peeves with romance novels is a third act breakup, and that's exactly what we got here, and it's because it takes them forever to talk about the reason that he ghosted her. She doesn't want to ask him, and when she does finally bring it up, Samson didn't go ahead and tell her like right then and there, even though that literally would have cleared up any miscommunication or confusion. So the fact that they had the opportunity and didn't really pissed me off. As far as things that I enjoyed, I really like the friendships between Rhiannon and Lakshmi, Rhiannon and Katrina. They were all really nice, and as someone who grew up reading a lot of girl hate in YA. I appreciate that that doesn't happen as much in adult. I also really thought that the romance was really sweet. I felt like the chemistry between the two characters is real. That is one thing that I definitely dislike in romance. If I don't believe that the characters like each other, then I don't give a damn about the story. So I mentioned workplace harassment and sexual harassment. That happened at Rhiannon's prior job, which is part of the reason that she ended up leaving that company and starting her own. There was this guy, Peter, and of course, she was blamed for his actions, and then of course people assumed that she only made it to where she was because she was sleeping with a dude and whatever the fuck. But she ended up coming forward, other women come forward, and they end up taking that guy down. So that at least was a happy ending. And then the death of a family member, that is in relation to Samson. I don't remember who it was in his family who passed away. I actually read book 1 quite some time ago, but we sort of see him dealing with his grief, and I think that the discussion of grief was handled very well, especially in the public eye. Now moving on to book 2, Girl Gone Viral. Like I said, in this one we follow Katrina, who is Rhiannon's best friend and roommate. I would recommend this for people who like bodyguard romances. This is technically the first bodyguard romance that I have actually read, and I know typically I feel like that's a theme that comes up maybe in darker romances, but if you want to give it a try in contemporary, this is definitely the one to go with. It also has adult characters who are both sort of falling in love for the very first time due to certain circumstances with their past relationships, and I actually really like that. As far as representation in this one, Katrina is half white, half Thai, and Jas is Punjabi, so we do see a little bit of his family dynamic, which I really enjoyed. And then as far as content in this one, there is PTSD, anxiety and panic attacks, death of a spouse, death of a parent, an abusive parent, and kidnapping. In this one, Katrina is sort of very much a homebody. She doesn't really like to go out. She's the one that has panic attacks, and so she really stays to herself. However, one day, I'm not sure if it was a video or a photo, but images of her end up online without her consent, and then the story just gets warped completely out of control. She does go viral, and obviously with her anxiety, that's literally the worst thing that could happen. So Jess tries to help her out, and they end up falling in love. That's all that I can say without spoilers, so if you've not yet read Girl Gone Viral but would like to, this is your official spoiler warning. So again, starting off with characters, in this one, let's start with Katrina. I do like her, however, she is literally too nice. Other people tell her she's too nice. People think that she needs to do things and be a little more petty, mean, aggressive in certain situations, and she just refuses to do that, and good for her, but I genuinely think that she actually is too nice. Jas, he's currently my favorite book boyfriend of 2023. He's so great. So I've had a conversation about bodyguard romances with Nicole previously, and at the time I hadn't read any, and I do still feel that as a bodyguard, it is your job to be protective. It is your job to want to, you know, take care of the person that you work for. So I don't really give him bonus points for that. I do like that, but that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. So I can't really say if like that matters all that much to me, but I just still like that about him. I do like their dynamic, and there wasn't any like weird, well, you work for me or I work for you, so that's awkward. There was no weird power dynamic. They do address that, and so I like the way that it was handled. Gia ends up being the third roommate to all of our characters, and therefore the female main character in the third book. And in this one, I said I liked her, but that I found her annoying, but that I was still interested to see her story. But we'll talk about that when we get to that one. We do also still see a little bit of Rhiannon and Samson, more so Rhiannon though, obviously, although Samson does make an effort to include Jas in his friend group and invite him out more, because he's also pretty much a homebody and very, very about his job, and like doesn't really do much else, doesn't really have a lot of friends, so I really appreciated that. Getting into the plot, Katrina is a widow of 6 years. She was married, but not necessarily for love. Her father was wildly abusive. Her mother passed when she was young, and because Katrina was a model, her dad basically used her as a meal ticket and was incredibly abusive. Like, would make her, like, you have to go to a photo shoot, you have to do this thing, you have to do well in this interview, otherwise you don't get to eat. Like, it was awful. And so part of all of that led into the fact that she doesn't like to be out. The person that she was married to basically was able to pay her dad off, so he left her alone for a long time. And then when he died, she sort of just stayed in the shadows, stayed in the background. But then when her video gets leaked, naturally, her dad comes out and tries to blackmail her. So Katrina and Jess have known each other for a long time because Jess was hired by Katrina's husband. And so he's known her for a really long time. He has had feelings for her for a long time, but of course never acted on it at the time because she was married, and then afterwards because to him it sort of felt like a little bit of a betrayal to want the wife of the person that he used to work for. Before working in security, Jas was in the military and he was medically discharged. He did get injured. That is a part of the reason that he does have PTSD. There is something that's happening. It's supposed to be like a parade that his family is being honored at, and he doesn't want to go because he knows that there are going to be fireworks. And so he really can't handle that sound, but he also hasn't really told his family that he has PTSD because he's afraid of what they'll think. So as I mentioned, both of them have had growing feelings for each other for a while, but neither of them wanted to cross that line. So when the photo of Katrina started circulating, what happened was she was at a coffee shop. Random dude sat next to her because the coffee shop was kind of packed, and this influencer decides to start taking pictures and videos of them and then puts it on Twitter and was like, oh, they're so cute, da 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 da. And it turned into like coffee shop bae or some shit. And then the guy basically decides to use that narrative to his advantage and is like, oh yeah, we're still talking, we're getting really close, we might get married, da da da. Mind you, Katrina hasn't spoken to this dude since it happened, so she's freaking the fuck out. And because she's afraid of people finding out her true identity and being pulled back into the limelight, Jas decides to take her to his family farm. It's a remote location, forced proximity, and that's sort of where their relationship starts to bloom. So like I mentioned, Katrina's dad is part of the reason that she has panic attacks, and he used to use that to control her. He basically said, like, because of her panic attacks, she isn't able to have control over her money and things like that. So he basically controlled all of her assets and was wildly emotionally abusive. So when the photo or video comes out, he sees it and calls her and blackmails her. She does end up meeting him to talk about it. She does cut him a check, and I feel like she shouldn't have, but again, too nice. But right after that, when Katrina isn't around, Jas literally threatens to kill him, and it was like the greatest moment of the entire book. Loved it because I think he'd actually do it. And yeah, but after that, her dad really does leave her alone for good, thank God. And then on Jas's side with the PTSD and him not wanting to tell his family, once he finally does, his grandfather was like, okay, I will make sure you have all of the accommodations that you need. I'll let you be backstage so you don't have to be in a crowd. We'll get you some noise canceling headphones. And it was really nice because he felt sort of estranged from his family because he thought they were disappointed in him, but really they just wanted him to spend more time with them. So as far as my dislikes, like I said, Katrina is 100% absolutely too nice. I don't like that. I just wish I'm happy that she did learn to stand up for herself, but her dad didn't deserve any money from her. Other people didn't deserve anything from her, and everybody can't be a heartless bitch like me, I guess, but that's okay. Another thing was that I found some of the language kind of cringe, and I think most people would find it cute, but I did not, so that's just a me thing. Definitely not what I think most people would feel. And as far as things that I like, honestly, all of them relate to Jas. He is my favorite male main character in this series. I love him threatening her dad. And also, Katrina and Jas end up finding a dog. And, you know, they're trying to find the owners or whatever, but Katrina's becoming really attached to the dog. And Jas doesn't know anything about having a pet. So he tells his brother, like, I'll pay $500. And he's like, what? $500? And Jas is like, $5,000? And his brother's like, okay, no, you don't need to pay that much money, but okay, we can make an arrangement so she can keep the dog, because the dog's name is Doodle, I think. But Katrina absolutely fell in love with the dog, and he like refused to let anybody take it away from her, so that was really cute. But yeah, those are my thoughts on book 2. I really enjoyed it and definitely recommend. Now let's talk about book 3. First Comes Like. This is where we follow Gia, and I think I rated it 3 stars. Honestly, I was a little disappointed with it, if I'm being honest. So in this one, Gia is Pakistani and Dev is Indian. So love the cultural elements there. Also the family dynamics, for Dev anyway, were really great. This one includes, I was originally gonna say mistaken identity, but really it's just straight up fucking catfishing. But there is also fake dating, which I know is a buzzword for a lot of people. So hopefully people enjoy this one more than I did. There's also a little bit of discussion about imposter syndrome and racism in the film industry. So in this one, Gia believes that she has been speaking to this very famous Bollywood actor who is now making a break in Hollywood, and there are so many red flags, so many. She just ignores them. She knows that he's gonna be at this event that is in, I think LA is where they live, and she keeps trying to meet up with him and he's like deflecting and whatever. So she decides that I'm just gonna show up at this party and I'm gonna meet him and we'll see how it goes. So she gets there and he's like, hello, do I know you? And she's like, are you serious? Are you really gonna do this to me right now? And he's like, I don't understand, what do you mean? And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And she like storms off, whatever. And she's like so upset, but genuinely, he did not know her. He feels super bad though, so he ends up finding her so he can reach out and apologize and figure out what actually happened. I like Dev a lot. Like I said, I really like his family too. I can't say the same for Gia though, and that's all I can say without spoiling. So if you have not yet read First Comes Like, this is your official spoiler warning. Okay, let's talk about Gia. I can understand wanting to be optimistic, wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt and whatnot. Do I do it? No. However, there were very clear signs that she was being catfished. Rhiannon and Katrina told her she was being catfished and she did not listen. If Gia were a little younger, maybe I can understand. However, Gia and I are the same age. Gia is 29 and just blatantly ignoring red flags. So I kind of don't have any sympathy for you because the people that you love and that are close to you are telling you that this is a problem and that you need to be careful, and you're just choosing to ignore them. And for what? Gia also does this weird like romance novel or rom-com narrative in her head, and I hated it every fucking time. And then she complains about her age and is like, oh, but there's like younger influencers than me. There's always gonna be younger people than you. That's how life works. Like, shut up, stop complaining. And if you don't want to be an influencer anymore, don't do it. I feel like she just like overreacted and had like weird and stupid reactions to things. So I did not like Gia. As for Dev, I really like him. His brother recently passed, and so Dev became guardian for his niece Luna, and I really love the dynamic between them. It's him, Luna, and their uncle, and family dynamic was perfect. He's such a great parent to Luna, and I really like that. Luna, I really like her. Her dad was awful, and so she carries a little bit of self-doubt and like feeling like she's not loved because she doesn't believe that her dad loved her, which he didn't. So having a parent now who actually cares about her is like the best thing that could possibly happen to her. I can't remember the uncle's name, but I also really like him too. I really didn't like Gia's family except for one of her sisters, and she has like 4 of them, but yeah, not a fan. And then again, we do also see Rhiannon, Katrina, and Lakshmi. There is this weird dynamic between Lakshmi and Gia where they don't like each other, but then it gets resolved. I didn't really feel like it was necessary. I don't know. On to the plot. Dev's brother originally started catfishing Gia. Why? I don't know. He was very weird, immature, selfish, and not a great person. But then he dies, and his cousin ended up picking it up and like kept doing it. It was a very weird thing. And they were quoting lines to Gia from Dev's Bollywood movies, which also really weird and unoriginal. It was just a lot. So they meet and Dev is explaining what happened because he does really feel bad. Dev is sort of hiding from paparazzi because he's being followed and whatever, and Gia's an influencer, so some people do know her as well. However, he tries to shield her from a paparazzi, and another one ends up getting a photo of them that looks like they're making out in an alley. This causes problems for multiple reasons. Number one, Dev's grandfather will not let him get his inheritance unless he gets married before the age of 33. And Dev doesn't really want to do that. He's, you know, trying to make it in Hollywood so he can have his own money, so he can take care of Luna. But when they see this photo, they're like, oh, okay, so when's the wedding? Gia's family, on the other hand, Gia used to be in med school, so she's obviously intelligent, but she wasn't passionate about that. Then she became an influencer. Her family's not supportive of that. But then they see this photo and they're like, oh, you're dating someone you didn't tell us. How could you do that? Why didn't you tell us? And she's like, I'm not dating him. And they're like, no, you definitely are, because we saw the photo and it looks like you are, so you must be. And so Gia goes along with it and is like, yeah, we're dating. So now they're fake dating, but also Gia's family is completely unsupportive of her until they believe that she's locked down a man. No, thank you. So like I said, my dislikes were Gia and her family. The dynamic was just really weird. And I understand sometimes there are expectations from your family, and a lot of times women are told the best thing you can do is get a husband. If you don't do that, you're a failure, and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Also, there was a huge lack of communication on Gia's part. And again, you're almost 30 years old. You are a grown-ass adult, and I understand that you may not be super experienced in relationships, but communicating with people is bare minimum. I will die on that hill. Communication is bare minimum. So then, of course, there's a third act breakup for literally no fucking reason. You two just need to talk to each other. So they do end up having sort of a rushed wedding, but both of them actually are into it and are okay with it and are willing to go forward with it. And Gia's like, okay, yeah, like I'll help you get your inheritance. And he's like, yeah, whatever, I'll play your husband for your family, whatever. But they actually do like each other. He also like wants to give her space because she hasn't had a ton of independence. She's never lived alone. And so he's trying to do that, and she just keeps making up these scenarios in her head that don't exist. So lack of communication, unnecessary third act breakup, all of that was super fucking annoying. As for things that I like, all of them have to do with Dev. Like I said, I really liked his relationship with his family, how great he was to Luna, but also he was just like very genuine and considerate and respectful throughout everything that was happening with him and Gia being followed and people thinking they're dating and whatnot, and fixing the mess that his brother and cousin got him into. Like I said, 3 stars, pretty average for me. If I had liked Gia, I probably would have given this a 4 or higher, but I just couldn't get past a lot of her actions. Those are my thoughts on the Modern Love series by Alicia Rai. Definitely recommend. I think others will probably have a little less issue with the things that I disliked because I'm just very critical when it comes to things like this. But let me know if you've read any of the books in this series or if you plan to. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.